Hello. How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing? Let's get my phone ringer turned off here. I need to set that on a schedule. That would be awesome. Fantastic. Okay. We got some big news. Some big important news. We'll cover this towards the end as well if we have the time. Hopefully we're going to have the time. I'm making some changes to the way we do the news. I want to keep evolving this and making it the best for people. What I've been doing hasn't worked the best. So I'm gonna make some changes. First things first, we're actually going to stop doing it at noon. It's hard. A lot of people want time at my lunch, and it's just hard for me to manage. I actually generally don't get to take a lunch. I know, crazy to a lot of you. It's actually easier for me that way. The lunchtime is actually overlaps with a lot of different time zones. So lunchtime is actually very difficult for me to have. So it's easier for me to eat lunch earlier or later, not actually at lunchtime. Yeah. So today is the last day at lunch. Now, I also have the next 2 weekends off. I have a family reunion, and then I have to go to my parents' house the following weekend. So the next 2 weeks, there's going to be no news, and there's going to be no Saturday stream either. I'm going to be busy on both of those. So I have the next 2 weekends off. And through that, I'm going to release in Discord some of the updates to how we're going to be running it. One of the things that I want to do is make more clippable content. So like what I mean by that is I want to make the news into more sections like this, where I can do it live, we can have the interaction, but then we can also pretty easily clip it. When I'm rushed to doing it just in a lunchtime, I end up covering a ton of content, but not going in depth onto any of it. And so one of the goals that I'm going to try to do with the newer way of doing the news is spending some more time covering the different things. Instead of just, later today, we're going to bring up K0S is joining the CNCF, which is true as a sandbox project. I'm going to actually then in future episodes talk about what K0S is, why it's a big deal, why you should be excited about it, and that it moved into the CNCF, and why it's a bigger deal to the community. I have not dropped any frames. So I'd like to start making clippable content that can go to YouTube as a short clip of the stream for people to see. I think that would probably be good. And the thing is, I can't do all of that in the hour I get for lunch, as I'm generally really, really rushed. So when are we going to do these things and whatnot? I'm going to be releasing a schedule. I'm in the process of finalizing it. It should be better times. For some, it will be worse times for others. The thing is, I'm going to split it up instead of doing it all at once. We're going to have a couple like 1 to 2 hour sessions where we cover just a couple topics. And so, yeah, anyways, let me know how you guys like the new setup in a couple of weeks. Let me know what you have liked and what you haven't liked. I do actually plan on still having a shotgun session of like all the news you should be aware of, but we're not going to spend time on. We're just going to go over and be like, yeah, these things happen. They're important. You should know about them. But there's not really more information to be gone into. So we'll still do that. And yeah, let me know. I'll recap this at the end of the stream as well today, so people are aware. All right. Did I get to check out VO3 yet? No, I haven't actually gotten to check it out. Tomorrow I might. If I could, I would actually love to pay the $250 subscription. We'll get into that. I can't right now, so we'll see. We'll see. Hey there, Scott B. How are you doing? All right, let's jump into the news, and then I'll recap again how this news section is going to be changing in the future. We got a lot of stuff to go through, and only an hour to go through it, so let's jump into it. Before we talk about Google Build, Mistral's release, or Google I/O, or Microsoft Build, or the Mistral releases, or any of that stuff, I wanted to quickly cover a fact that I think is, maybe if I gave my advice, I would give these people the advice of, don't let your company be based 95% on regurgitated open source. Gary Tan said that roughly 25% of the companies in the most recent batch are using AI to generate 95% or more of their code. I just have to say, I have been around a lot of AI generated code, and if AI is generating 95% of your code is a mess, an absolute mess. Probably impossible to debug fully, and definitely full of bugs. This isn't to downplay AI's abilities. I do extensive testing, and I'm in the process of making the next AI games for this winter. So we'll be doing it in Christmas break like we did last year again. And I put a lot of work into the AI games. We're going to be doing that. And what I have to say is that there's no way it makes 95% of your code and your company goes on to be worth a whole lot of money. Not at this point in time. So either this fact is wrong or incorrect. I don't know. Now, you know what? Let's jump into, we're going to skip security. We're going to jump into everything that happened at Google in the last couple of weeks, or at Google I/O. Google I/O released a ton of different things, from things for developers to things that normal everyday people maybe might use. I don't have access to all of this stuff, and I definitely haven't paid their new $250 a month subscription to get access to the latest and greatest, as well as higher releases. There is a $250. If I can find the budget in the budget, which I don't have in the budget right now, to do that, I might. For the AI games, I am going to get the premium for everything this December. That's my promise. It's going to probably cost me about $1,000 to do the AI games this year. I am going to get the premium for everything. Hopefully I get a sponsor for the AI games because it's going to be expensive, but I don't have it right now. That being said, there was a large slew of releases. Oh, wait. The budget in the budget. You got to make sure the budget's in the budget. Okay, anyways, the slew of releases. Meet Flow, the AI-powered filmmaking with a VO3. Now, you guys know that I am actually really excited about AI filmmaking because I actually want to do better graphics in my better illustrations in my YouTube videos, and I'm not a graphic designer. So if I can do some stuff like this, that's like actually huge to me, to making higher quality videos for you guys, like better explainer videos. So like what I have found is that they don't do this. They don't do this. They do like people. They do stuff like this, which isn't actually useful to me. So I'm actually really interested in trying Flow out to see if I can't make some really good, you know, explainer video type of dialogue and text leveraging it. My guess is it's looking to make light bulbs in people. Like if you wanted to put light bulbs in people, that's what it's going to do well at. But yeah, there's also the release of VO3, which is like their sounds, which I'm actually also interested in trying for my videos to see if I can't make some sound effects for them. That would be good. So we'll see if I get my hands on it and how well it does. The other thing that they released was Jules. This was kind of weird. This was a little weird to me because it was disconnected from some of the other stuff. So there's Gemini 2.5 Pro and some of the stuff that they did with that. Jules is kind of Gemini 2.5 Pro agent asynchronous coding thing. So what Jules does is it actually clones your code in your Git repo into a VM and builds and works on it there and then makes commits back. It's trying to be a completely asynchronous agent. I, again, haven't gotten the opportunity to find budget in the budget to purchase the ability to use this. They say you can try it, but the account I have right here has a credit card linked to it, so I'm a little bit scared of trying it because I don't know exactly where the line is when I start to get charged for it. As soon as I figure that out, we're going to give it a test. But yeah, this is a fully asynchronous agent to do stuff asynchronously. Again, for the AI games, we're going to try out the best of the best. I have a whole new set of challenges for the AI games that I think are going to really take it to the next level. And I'm excited to put some things like Jules to the test. Gemini Pro 2.5. Gemini 2.5 Pro. Sorry, I mixed it. Was released. This is supposedly a whole lot better, but I actually want to point a couple things out to you that they don't really talk about here. First, we actually kind of know the issue with these graphs here. A lot of these are gamed. A lot of these don't mean a whole lot. We have seen firsthand where they'll score better in coding, but in practice perform worse than other models that scored worse than them. So we have again and again proven that these don't mean as much as they might. Maybe if a company actually put forth the effort to do them for real, but a lot of times I believe that they're gamed, and if they're not gamed, they're just useless then. I'm hoping that they're gamed because otherwise they're just completely useless. The other thing that I wanted to point out in their bragging here, which kind of stood out to me, is they tried to point out how cheap they are compared to like O3. But in actuality, they're actually more competing against 4.1, which 4.1 is actually cheaper than them. So I don't understand that. I know that they put O3, which is like the deep reasoning, which I guess this is more like their deep reasoning. But like if you're talking about coding with it and whatnot, they're really looking at like the 4.1, which they don't even put in their graph. Another sneaky thing that they're going to do here is they put 4.0 mini, which is like the cheap one. They don't even put the real competitor here. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see if we're talking about coding and whatnot. I have never found Gemini to do what I asked it to do. I have found Gemini to be the worst altogether. Now, this is a new preview as of this date. I wish that another thing that I wish that they would go to 2.6 instead of keeping 2.5 preview. There's version numbers for reasons, Google. And this is getting a little tiresome because, like I've said, people are like, have you tried 2.5? And I'm like, yeah, it sucks. And they're like, have you tried the new 2.5? And I'm like, which new 2.5 are we talking about? When do we rotate this number? I don't know what the answer is. I'm sorry. I almost started yelling at you guys again. I got excited. I don't know what this number means. So I'll have to try this, see if it still holds. I couldn't get it to answer questions about Google's cloud itself. So yeah, anyways. All right. So this is the new subscription that Google released. Google AI Ultra. So again, this is what I will be attempting to get for the AI games this winter. It has access to more of the newer models. So like if you're looking for flow and stuff, that's coming this summer to AI Ultra. It will be later for everybody else. So if you're wanting to get those, it's $250 a month. There is 50% off for your first 3 months, which is, it's still $125 a month. It's still a lot of money, but this is what I'm going to be trying this December for the AI games. I will be doing the same with ChatGPT, getting their premium model to do this stuff, as well as GitHub Copilot, and any of the other ones that we try. So we'll be doing this. We're gonna see if we can't put them to work and actually do something pretty awesome. Yeah, AI Ultra. It sounds like a Samsung phone. Like this sounds like a Samsung phone. Not gonna lie. I read this Google AI Ultra and I was like, Samsung phone? The S23 Ultra? What? But it's just Ultra AI spelt backwards. Yeah, Google ripped us off. Google ripped us off. Ultra AI. I know. Google steals all my good ideas. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. No, I don't want that. What? What are these? Oh, the last thing that I wanted to say was that there was this point where Bryn comes on and basically says Google will be the first person to make AGI. And I wanted to clear up some stuff around AGI. First, nobody actually agrees on what the actual definition of AGI is. Some people would argue that we've already created AGI with things that have multi-models. Some people would argue that AGI is something that actually thinks, which going down our current thing, none of these actually think. They're just a weighted system to generate stuff. So they're just really generation machines. And I really actually dislike it when people refer to it as thinking, because we'll get into why that's a little bit of misinformation. But anyways, Bryn comes on and says that they will be the first to create AGI. A little ambiguous, and it will be by 2030. Now, I find this actually really interesting because if you've looked at AI people from the past, AGI is always the next year. It's always the next year. We can look up Sam Altman's myriad of times when, ChatGPT 3 came out. ChatGPT 3 was kind of dented. And he was scared to release it because of how powerful it was. Smarter than a human. It was really dented. We're not even talking like 3.5 turbo. It was worse than 3.5 turbo. Okay? So there is a history of this in the industry for a couple of years now. So when Bryn comes on and says 2030, that's 4 years out. That's actually like the most reasonable I've seen somebody. Like, it makes me think Google is cooking something because he's being reasonable. Our most powerful model yet? Yeah. Anyways, so there's that. Let's talk about Microsoft Build. Microsoft Build was more exciting to me than Google's. Google's was AI, 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 and why? While Microsoft had a lot of AI stuff, they also had some interesting stuff for you Windows lovers out there. I know that there's like 3 people out there that watch me that are Windows users. I don't know how they watch me, but that's fine. That's fine. There's actually quite a bit of things that were pretty interesting for developers, and I wanted to talk on it. Before I talk about and praise them, I want to call them out first and foremost for a blog that shouldn't have been posted. A blog should be taken down, and we should talk about it. Vibe coding, your roadmap to becoming an AI developer. Learn how to go from a curious coder to an AI wizard with a little help from GitHub. I don't consider myself an AI expert, but I do consider myself an AI proficient person. I have leveraged it quite a bit. We have run lots of experiments. I know how to leverage it fairly well. I think that this article does more harm than it does good. So this blog will walk you through what you need to know, learn, and build to jump into the world of AI using the tools and resources you already use on GitHub. Learn the essential programming languages and framework. Absolutely couldn't agree with this more. You need to know how to program before you use AIs at this point. With how they are, with what they are, you need to know not just the essentials. You need to be a good software engineer to make sure that you're producing good software with it. I disagree with giving this, like, why Python, Java, and C++? One, AIs are terrible at C++. If you're trying to leverage AIs, don't leverage it with C++. Microsoft themselves came out and said that it doesn't do well with that. And when they said that they wrote 30% of their code, they were talking about Python specifically, that about 30% of their Python leverages AI to help them write, not even that it's writing it fully. So if you want an AI to write everything for you, Python and Java probably are really good ones to learn. C++ is a little bit of a misleader. Let's talk about their next step here is mastering machine learning. Machine learning is the driving force behind AI, enabling systems to learn from data and improve their performance over time. Again, this is actually where I want to make a call out that they don't learn from data. We talk about training, but this is a little different than learning. What do we do when we train? We actually are setting a bunch of weights, right? So we're setting basically a formula. We're building an equation off of this, a mathematical equation. Neural networks are just a mathematical set of weights and probability. And that's what you're doing here. They're not enabling systems to learn from data. Also, generative GPTs are pre-trained generally, which means they actually don't learn over time. They're trained once, and then that model is that model. It is trained on the things. It has its weights all set. You can play with the temperature to get a variation, but it is a set of weights. It doesn't learn over time. So this is, again, a bit of misinformation. And if you're trying to help people get into it, I think you should work really, really hard to be really clear about what it's doing. Otherwise, you're spreading misinformation. It bridges the gap between raw data and actionable insights. I don't know. That's word salad. It's fine. We'll move on. Here are some key subfields to explore: deep learning, NLP, and computer vision. This is fine if you're wanting to learn on any of these. Machine learning subsets, that's absolutely fantastic. We're going to be doing a little computer vision in a little bit, and that's great. All right, build a GitHub portfolio to showcase your skills. A strong GitHub portfolio highlights your skill and AI projects, setting you apart in the developer community. Here is how you can optimize yours. Organize your repository, clear names, detailed readmes, and instructions on how to replicate your work. Feature your best work, create a profile readme, use GitHub pages, build a personal site, contribute to open source. Highlight your, I like this, to show your collaboration and technical expertise. I don't know how this helps you become good at machine learning. I also don't see any real links to, you know, there's like some projects here, but if you're actually wanting to learn machine learning, where are the links to learn any of these? Like, I can find OpenCV, cool, that's awesome. Let's find some really good educational there. Get certified in GitHub Copilot. This is their 4th step. Microsoft. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of build. This was their whole thing, is get certified in agent mode of Visual Studio Code. This came out with build. That's why I'm calling it out. Now let's talk about the cool things that they did. Would I hire somebody with a GitHub Copilot cert? I would absolutely avoid that person. If they thought that that made them hireable or marketable, like if they had it, I'm thinking about getting it just to see what it's like to get. Fine, don't care, but literally also don't care. If they try to push it on me as like, oh, you don't care. Let's move on. Microsoft WSL is now open source. This is the Windows subsystem for Linux as open source. Can I get some cheers? Now, I have known GitHub to be a little dented when making these assumptions here, but I assume that it's probably no C. I'm guessing it's all C++. That's also kind of Microsoft's style. Maybe there's C. I'm guessing this is all C++. And this is like some build stuff around it. But this is really cool. Like if you're really wanting, I know I have a video on how this works, Windows subsystem for Linux, but this is like actually how it works. Really, really cool, really awesome. And it's under MIT. Like, this is cool. I'm excited about this. How do you think you run NeoVim in Windows? WSL. It's awesome. You know, I'm not a person that I like to call Microsoft out for the horrible things they do, because they do horrible things. I also like to cheer for the things that they do that's awesome. If you're wanting to learn C++, Microsoft writes some of the best C++ that I have seen. I don't mean that as like a shill in any way. If you're talking about C++, Microsoft knows its thing about C++. If you're wanting to learn how to write idiomatic, older style C++, I don't know of a better company to learn from. Now, they have some things. Microsoft, for the longest time, had their own smart pointers. I don't know if they've changed to the new standard library smart pointers, but like they had their own smart pointers before smart pointers were a thing. And it was kind of like a requirement to write or to use them when writing C++. So they've written their own safety rails. So it's not like writing normal C++ when you're talking about Windows C++. It is what I used to learn the little bit of open source that they had, and it was fantastic. Moving on to something that might affect you more than WSL being open source is Visual Studio Code now supports baseline. So if you're talking about me being a terrible front-end developer, VS Code now has better clipping from baseline So if you hover over something, it's going to give you stuff about how it's supported from baseline, which, you know, is pretty awesome. Yeah, widely available across major browser baseline since which is really cool. So if you're trying to build something that works across all the browsers, Visual Studio Code got a little bit better. WinGet CLI is also open source, is also, I didn't know until build that Windows had a CLI application for managing your, it's a package manager. WinGet is I didn't know they had a package manager. I thought you had to use Chocolatey. I was living in 2015 Microsoft. Chocolatey was the thing to do. But WinGet exists, it does that. Now, what's really cool that they released in build is that WinGet is getting a new superpower, which actually is something that I believe that they've learned from the open source community. Because a lot of open source community people with Linux really like this ability. WinGet is getting the ability to take a snapshot of your current packages and your current configuration and basically save that to rebuild the computer as. So Windows is becoming, it's learning lessons from Linux, honestly, which is really cool to see Microsoft building that in, as well as another fantastic C++ project you can learn C++ from because it's MIT licensed. So that's all really, really awesome. Now, we don't all run Windows here, but if you do, this is pretty cool. I would definitely be using WinGet. WinGet is a great until it breaks, then it's a miserable pain. Okay. WinGet is like Pac-Man. Chocolatey is like yay. Okay, well then we still like Chocolatey better. I have never used it, guys. Okay, like let me be clear. I'm just reporting on some stuff that I don't know about. The idea that you can take a snapshot of your computer and the things installed and then go to another computer and make it the same sounds awesome to me. That being said, it is WinGet is going to support desired state configuration 3.0. This version marks a significant evolution in cloud-native configuration management for cross-platform environments. DSC is a declarative configuration and orchestration platform that defines a standard way of exposing settings for applications and services. It's a tool for managing systems and applications by describing what they should look like, or rather than how to make it that way. This is pretty awesome. I mean, this is Kubernetes declarative over, like, this is the classic thing that we're moving to. We like declarative instead of imperative. I think that a lot of people agree with this. I've never used Microsoft desired state management configuration. I put management in there, a desired state configuration. I heard good things about it. So cool. And I mean, WinGet is going to support it. I'm kind of excited for WinGet users without being a WinGet user. All right. Desired state, not crashing, please. It is confirmed that Cloud doesn't use desired state. It is confirmed. That being said, Vim has a new competitor. Instead of installing WSL and installing NeoVim, the greatest editor this earth has ever known, you could just use Edit. Now, I did find out that Edit is open source. I thought this was okay. Well, maybe I didn't open it. It is another fantastic MIT licensed open source project written in Rust. Yeah, that's right. Another instance of Microsoft actually backing the Rust project. This actually upgrades Edit in my eyes. Who knows? They probably do not support Vim motions. I haven't gotten a chance to use Edit. But for you Windows lovers out there that don't want to use WSL, you can now use something that's close to the superior operating system. So I'm excited for these people too. Like, you're in the command line, you're PowerShelling it out, and you just want to edit that file, and you don't want to leave your PowerShell. You don't want to leave that precious PowerShell. Boom, edit, done. Fantastic. Next, Microsoft will rewrite NeoVim for Windows. Again, don't quote me. I have no idea what the key motions are. I have no idea if it has a Vim motion setting. I don't know anything about it other than it exists and that it's written in Rust, and thus superior to many things that are already out there. Moving on. GitHub Copilot. Meet the new coding agent. So you know how we talked about Jules? So earlier we talked about Jules. That was this Google thing that would take your code, clone it into a VM, build it, work on it, edit it, and make commits back to your Git repository. Microsoft wanted to get in on this as well. You'd think that these people releasing these things in the same week had to collude just a little. Like, had to collude, they must have spies. I know that corporate espionage is illegal, but like, I feel like they didn't just innovate the same thing. I don't know. Anyways, you now have, Copilot has for a while been able to give you a review of your code. But what this is doing is, again, allowing you, implementing features has never been easier. Just assign a task or issue to Copilot, and it runs in the background with GitHub Actions and submits its work as a pull request. So this does the same thing. It pulls your code, it uses an agent on this VM, builds and iterates to try to do your issue. And yeah, so a little spoiler alert here. The new, the AI games this fall are going to test the limits of these coding agents. We're going to basically get them all doing the same thing in parallel, and they're going to have a list of tasks to do, and they're going to do those tasks one by one, and we're going to see who does all of the tasks the best. That it's going to be fun. You know, we need to get a sponsor. If your company would like to sponsor this winter's AI games, let me know, because I gotta pay for all of these. Moving on. What was this? Why am I scrolled halfway through? I shouldn't have scrolled up. This was just the same thing. I had double tabbed. All right, GitHub Models API now available. I find this one interesting. I didn't know what it meant by this GitHub Models API. Like, what does that mean? GitHub Models built in your repository is in public preview. What do they mean? I didn't know, and I had to actually dig into it for you guys on exactly what they mean by this Models API and models built in. Well, basically what it allows you to do is leverage models inside of your Git repo. We can actually watch this. It's really quick. Let's turn the music off. Maybe we can watch this. Please, can we watch this? I broke it. Let me refresh the page. Here we go.
To my application, and I'm going to show you how the new GitHub Models tab in your repositories can help. In fact, this file represents a prompt used by my application to implement these new features. All of my prompts can now be found in this brand new Models tab in my repository. This is the same file we were looking at earlier. I can pick a model, tweak the parameters, change any variables, and run the prompt to understand the outcome. I can make changes to the prompt and commit the changes like any other code.
So I want to pause it here because like this I find actually really interesting. If you are making prompts that are part of your code, especially system prompts. So we actually do this for our Twitch alerts. We actually leverage system prompts, right? And we actually could make and version changes to that. The other thing that this does, which I think is really, really cool, is allows you to check the variations and test the variations you would get versus different models. So let's watch. I think this is weird in GitHub, but it actually kind of makes sense too. I actually am kind of excited about this. We'll watch
The
the
Compare
rest.
tab lets you run experiments to understand how variations in your prompts and which models you use affect the output. You may notice that this page already has some sample data, and that's because we included it in the .prompt.yaml file as test data. I can add
More YAML. Doesn't that just get you excited? The .prompt.yaml file. Ooh, that sends shivers down my spine. I just love it when we add more YAML to stuff. Like, you just can't have too much YAML.
additional prompts to see side by side how different models, parameters, system, and user prompts perform. You can also apply evaluators to quickly see what combinations meet your desired output and see it directly in the dataset grid, which we'll look at in just a moment. The existing evaluator uses an LLM as a judge, resulting in either a pass or a fail. Let's see how the evaluators are shown when running two different variations, in this case, two different models. And we can see here that all 4 requests, both prompts against both inputs, have all had that one evaluator pass, as well as some other metadata about each request. Organization.
So this is actually pretty cool. Like, at first, when I was looking through this, at first my assumption is GitHub Models was like a place where you could like upload and host your model, which maybe I haven't actually seen that, but the idea here is like you could run tests with different models. You can version your system prompts and things like that you leverage in your applications. I actually think that this is pretty cool. Configuration peaked at any files. Also, Russell, that's really awesome. You got your pet project funded. That's super, super cool. I'm happy for you. So anyways, I think this is actually pretty awesome. Obviously, there's a models API. This is a pretty simple API to leverage. So cool. But yeah. So anyways, well, let's move on. I'm close to time. New releases for GitHub Actions. So I wanted to point this out. A lot of people here use GitHub Actions. There is GitHub has introduced fully qualified and wildcard domains into a new Actions inbound section within the Meta API. This enhancement provides customers with a streamlined way to stay updated on the network communication requirements for self-hosted runners. By supporting both fully qualified and wildcard domains, the update improves flexibility in managing network configurations while strengthening security through consistent compliance with communication standards. This is really a big deal for people running self-hosted runners. If you are, you probably understand why this might be a thing that you care about. If you don't use self-hosted runners, you don't give a crap. So let's move on. Let's move on. All right, so we have some cool open source stuff. We have some security stuff. We're going to talk about the last little bit, since both build and GCP were so much about AI. We're going to talk about the last little bit of AI stuff. Then we're going to talk about security, and some open source and some stuff like that. Before we get into that, I really wanted to touch base really quickly with you all about some changes that are coming up. First, the next 2 weekends I have off. I have a family reunion coming up in the next weekend, and then the weekend after that, I have to go to my parents' house. So the next 2 weekends, there will be no Saturday stream, and there will be no Friday stream. That being said, I am changing how I do the news. I'm looking to try to make this so that it reaches as many people as possible. And the way that I've been doing it is not only stressful on me. It turns out that lunchtime for me is a perfect time for meetings for everybody in the company due to time zones. And so actually it makes more sense for me to eat earlier or later. And it's inconvenient. That being said, I'm not going to do it at noon anymore. The other thing that I don't want to do is to confine myself to an hour. One thing, and I'm not going to say that everybody here loves this YouTuber or whatnot. One thing that I want to do is I want to spend more time on specific topics. One thing that I noticed is Twitch doesn't have very much visibility. And so I want to be able to clip out sections of this where it's 5 to 10 minutes on a topic. So I want to be able to give 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes if the topic deserves it on a topic, kind of like this. I'd like to be able to do more things like this where, everything Google just announced, this is actually findable on YouTube, and then they can find the live streams and the Twitch stuff if this exists there. Right now, as I do it, it's kind of a shotgun of just all the different things as quickly as possible so that I can get through it. And I don't know. I appreciate everybody that's here and has supported me this far through this. I want to continue to try to make some changes, and I'd love your guys' feedback on if you like the way this goes. That means, though, there will be some changes in timing. We're probably going to do 2 news sections. I know that one is going to be Friday morning. I don't know when the second one's going to be at this point. By Friday morning, I mean like 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's like nearly lunchtime for the people in the EU. Anyways, so we're going to be moving them around, but we're probably going to do 2 sections so that there's plenty of time to cover the different topics, because I'd like to make some stuff that is it's not SEO. It's findable. It's findable. I want to make findable content so that people can find it. Again, let me know. I want you guys to hold me to. I want to find good news, and I want to deliver good news for you guys, and I want to make sure that it's interesting, and I want to make sure that I uphold my journalistic duty to get through all of the bad fake news that's out there. But yeah. Why not? I could make the news part of Saturday's stream as well. I thought about doing the other portion on Saturday. If you guys don't mind, I would love that. It would reduce. Please don't use the term fake news. Okay, I apologize. Not real news. Highly extravagated news. Highly not real. Honest lies. There we go. I try to cut through all the honest lies that we have out there. Honestly, some of it's probably honest lies. I actually believe that. When you're talking about some of this stuff is hard to understand, even as a person deep-seated in technology. And so if you're trying to report on it and not on that, what do you have to go by? The other problem that I see is that people clickbait works for a reason, and news companies know this. And so when they say, hey, Microsoft said 30% code generated, it's partially because that's what fits the title. Unfortunately, people don't go to the source. They just read what the news source article says. And, I'm okay with a little bit of clickbait-ish stuff in the title, but the article needs to be very clear on what's said. And unfortunately, that gets misrepresented. Whether it's on purpose or whether it's on accident, it doesn't matter. I'm here to help solve that. And anyways, that being said, I am looking to make it more clippable where we're going to talk about a subject for 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe, like I said, however much time is needed. I'm going to prepare for it that way as well. So some stuff is going to change and move around after this 2-week break. So anyways, that's the big piece of news there. I want to try to help people find it. I love all of you that are here that have found it, and all of you are super supportive of me, and I super appreciate all of you. I'm not making changes because of any of you. I'm just trying to see what works. So, anyways, let's move on. There was a new Minstrel release. A lot of people were really upset by their Medium release. I guess it went against their open source roots. I didn't realize this myself. I've never actually followed Minstrel a whole lot, but I guess Medium went more corporate, and people didn't like that. Today, they released DevStroll, which comes back to their Minstrel roots, their open source roots, and seems to be pretty good. Today, we introduced DevStroll, our agentic LLM for a software engineering task. DevStroll is built under collaboration between Minstrel AI and All Hands AI and outperforms all open source models on the SWE-bench verified by a large margin. We released DevStroll under the Apache 2 license. Let's give them a hand of applause. Apache 2 is fantastic. So, the SWE-bench has been gamified. So, just because you did really well on the SWE-bench isn't like, whoa, but it's also pretty awesome. I mean, the fact that at I think there are 20 billion parameters. I think they said they were 20 billion parameters. How many billions are there? DevStroll is light enough to run on a single RTX 4090. I have a 4070. I want to weep. I have a 4070. So not quite small enough to run on my graphics card. I'm hoping in the next year I will have something to run these models on to test locally. I'm actually really excited because while I don't have a 4090, the fact that it can run on a 4090 is actually within people's grasp of running this locally and leveraging it locally. So if it's actually doing this well for engineering related tasks, this is really, really cool. I'm actually really excited about DevStroll. Yeah, really excited about it. All right, V0, my very least favorite because you pay more as you use more, which is outstanding and confuses me to this day. Released a new V0-1.0-MD, which is basically a AI made for TypeScript. It's made for front end, and it seems like it's really made for TypeScript, not JavaScript. Although I think it can do JavaScript, but supposedly it's fantastic at generating and doing TypeScript tasks. I'm looking forward to seeing it integrated into some editors, so that you can leverage it in NeoVim, because that's the only editor people actually use. So I'm interested in seeing that and seeing when that comes out, but supposedly it does a really good job for front-end related tasks as long as it's JavaScript or TypeScript. And they said that it supported React and Vue and all of those. I bet you it's best at React with Tailwind. I'm just going to throw that out there. Everything I've seen from V0 is Next.js and Tailwind. Pretty solidly. Classic pay for what you use. It's better than this. This $20 gets you 500 credits. All right, plus all of this stuff. Okay. Okay. But if you want to get another 500 credits, do you pay $20? Do you pay $15? Because you don't get more of this other stuff? Oh no. Oh no. You pay $50 for the next 500 credits. You pay more. You pay more to use more. It's amazing. It's an amazing. I don't know how that bothers me. It's bothering me. The last piece of AI news is NVIDIA CEO. If I were a student today, here's how I'd use AI to do my job better. It doesn't matter to the profession. I want to call him out. The first thing I would do is learn to learn AI. Learning how to interact with AI is not unlike being someone who's really good at asking questions. Prompting AI is very similar. You can't randomly ask a bunch of questions. Asking AI to be an assistant to you requires some expertise and artistry of how to prompt it. Personally, I feel like we have failed at creating machine learning if we have to write in a very specific special language that they would understand. That's called a machine language, like C++. C++ is also a machine language that if you know and it has a bit of artistry around it, if you learn to speak the language properly, you can get the machine to do anything that you want, literally anything. From the original Doom to the newest Doom to Expedition 33, you could do all of that stuff if you learn to speak the language properly. I really think that we have kind of failed if you have to learn a special language. Just going to throw that out there. I keep seeing that where people are like, you got to learn it. And it's like, maybe right now you do. And if you always have to, we've just created a different skill set. All right, let's talk security. There's two big things that you guys need to know about. Let me ban somebody really quickly. Done. You should start telling people to end their prompt sentences with a semicolon. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. You're letting him know that it's the end of the line. I have thought about making a AI prompting guide and putting it on YouTube. I haven't done it because I feel like it's the wrong way for AI to go. But maybe I should do it. I've prompt AI a lot. I understand some of the things that it does better and some of the things that it does worse. Maybe I should do that. I'll think about that. All right, let's talk about security. I only have a few minutes left, so let's talk about security really quickly. This is something really important. The AWS default IAM roles found to enable lateral movement and cross-service exploitation. IAM in AWS is notoriously rough for a lot of reasons. It has a lot of power. And if you don't have your degree in IAM roles in AWS, this is something that you will shoot yourself in the foot with. This is one of those things, if somebody does have like experience with and a certificate in AWS, my goodness, that is buyable. That is a marketable skill. Anyways, these roles are often created automatically or recommended during setup. Grant overly broad permissions, such as full S3 access. I have actually seen the S3 access itself, where there's a lot of stuff that they can leverage in S3 to attack your account from your account. And anyways, it's just something to be aware of out there. Probably shouldn't be using default IAM roles. Let me do it. The other one is our favorite browser, out there, Mozilla Firefox. It's the one I've started that I've been using as my daily browser for personal use on Linux. It has a 0-day exploit that was found at a hacking contest. I want to say first, kudos to the people at the hacking contest. That was awesome. And kudos to Firefox for patching it immediately. So, if you're on Arch, let's get happy. Yay, an update. Like, that's all you have to do. You have to smile and update. And that's it for security. Did anybody else see anything else in security? So many insecure S3 buckets. Absolutely. S3 buckets are notoriously insecure. IAM and role-based permissions 100% safe people. There's things that you should do. Things you should do, but aren't done properly. All right. Let's talk open source. I'm excited about this piece. I'm excited for this piece. A milestone for lightweight Kubernetes, K0s joins the CNCF sandbox. So I actually run K0s. There's some finicky things about K0s. It's not your standard distribution. Biggest thing that kind of throws people is it doesn't use kubeadm to run the control plane. So that was probably the biggest thing that kind of threw me off. But if you are looking for a lightweight home lab type of project, K0s is really, really nice. Really, really nice. I probably actually want to do a YouTube series on K0s, just getting people up and running with it. I actually really, really like it. The other thing I really like is it join the CNCF. What have we learned about the CNCF? If you watch the news for any amount of time, is that once you give it to the CNCF takes it. You can't change it to not Apache 2. It's going to be Apache 2 for its life. The company, Mirantis, can't say, hey, actually, now that people like that, we would like to make it not Apache 2. Doesn't work. We're watching the Syndicate. I can't even remember their name. Just that we called them the Syndicate because I couldn't pronounce their name. Anyways, so that's really cool. I'm really excited for it. You guys know that I like K0s. Again, I'm not saying that this is necessarily your best thing for your big clusters in AWS. I like something like Bottle Rocket for that. I think Bottle Rocket and that other one, I also really, really like for your big production clusters. But if you're talking about little clusters, either at the edge, like your edge clusters, or in a home lab, K0s is one of my favorites. Yeah, you spotted some bad physical security at MS Build. Yeah, that happened. That happened for sure. I found that hilarious. Introducing Docker hardened images. So you all know I'm a little bit of a Dan Lornick fan, and I try to state those things so that you guys understand my biases. As humans, we all have biases, whether it's your friend or whatnot. I'm a little bit of a fan of Dan Lornick's. If you don't know who that is, not sponsored. Although Dan, if you'd like to sponsor a stream, we have some cool things coming up. Dan Lornick does a lot around securing container images. Just last week, we talked about how ChainGuard, his company, also started doing some stuff with Python projects and whatnot. And I'm in talks to try to get Dan Lornick to join the show again. Anyways, it seems like Docker has decided that ChainGuard was a pretty good idea. ChainGuard was a pretty good idea. It's pretty funny. Like, Docker is always late. they were late to Kubernetes. Docker Swarm, like their end goal was late. Like their goal was to do what Kubernetes did, and Kubernetes ate their lunch because they were late. It's happening again. They're late to the hardened images. Everything that you read here, secure by default container images, purpose built for modern web production, this is what there's a company that already stood up and filled this hole. Now, I'm happy that they're doing it. I'm happy for a little competition because I think a little competition will make all of it better. If you're looking for hardened images, I would probably go with the company that's been doing it for years now. They have a pretty good track record, and you can use the open source ones if you don't want to pin to an older version. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. All right, we've got to run. I got 2 more minutes, and then I have a hard stop. So let's speed run this. There's a new board in town, the Raw 4M10, which looks pretty awesome. I love boards. I have too many of them sitting around, so I'm not buying it because I don't have the budget for it. And I have too many now anyways. So it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool if you're into these types of things. So you go give it a check if you're into that type of things. Oh, I wanted to talk about Klarna because you know what I need to do? I need to do a whole thing on Klarna because I think this is an interesting timeline. I need to make a video on Klarna. Anyways, Klarna doubles losses in first quarters as IPO remains on hold. Klarna is struggling. They went all in on AI to cut costs. They went all in, and they basically come out and reverse course and said, hey, we're going to have to hire a lot because AI can't even do support tasks well enough. So I can't imagine it's coding well enough. That being said, this is significantly worse than the $47 million loss reported last year. They're up to a basically 100 million. It's a little bit more than doubled. I can do basic math, obviously. I would say more than doubles. Like we're basically talking triples here. It's not triples. It's just a little bit more than doubles. Anyways, now, they stated that this was due to several one-off costs related to depreciation, share-based payments, and restructurings. But the thing is, they have put their IPO on hold, which is interesting. Very interesting. Moving on, because we don't have time. MIT removed this article. This was we have seen this article and this research paper before, and it turns out that MIT is actually now requesting that it be removed, and they won't say exactly why, but they said that there was an internal investigation and that the person doesn't work there anymore. If you look at their policies and code of conduct, their policies, that basically is an honesty policy. So I'm assuming they found some sort of reason to assume that there was not honest reports done there. And the last thing is that there was introduction of Codex, not interesting, and Sam and Johnny introduce. They don't introduce. IO has already been a thing, so Sam just bought IO, and then this was kind of a weird way of stating it. It was kind of weird. So that's it. I have to go. Thank you. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I hope to see you tomorrow, and I hope to bring you better news in the future in a little bit of a different way. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend.